Howdy do, fellow kids.
What?
Tweens, the middle ground between children and teenagers. 8 to 14-year-olds who haven't quite started wearing makeup and bras, but have quite literally grown out of kids' shows and Barbie dolls. In the US and Canada, this age has a territory all of its own, middle school. However, the 21st century has seen the tween demographic steadily shrinking as children, especially young girls, are encouraged to grow up faster than ever before. The divide between child and teen is now starker than ever, and nowhere is this clearer than in the media. Pre-teens start off watching cartoons and crazy antics on Nick and Disney before taking a drastic leap to shows on the CW, Netflix, and HBO that depict teens doing drugs, sleeping together, and partaking in other questionable teen activities like entering gangs. Shows for and about teenagers used to be more conservative in their storylines and relationships. In the book Teen TV, Shaniya Margaton notes, due to network television's least offensive programming agenda, showing teen sex and subsequent teen pregnancy continued to be taboo until the late 1990s. Even Friends, a show targeted towards adults, was pretty conservative in its depiction of. However, as both the taboo and restrictions concerning teen sex on screen decreased, teen TV has become raunchy enough to rival or even outdo adult programs. We have to wonder if there even are many age-appropriate TV shows for teens, let alone tweens. The tween-appropriate shows definitely seem to be the minority. Not to mention, in the age of social media, all content has been democratized. Tweens no longer have to sneak downstairs to watch late-night shows or scrub their internet history of how to kiss Google searches on the family computer. Tweens are learning about sex, drugs, and rock and roll earlier than ever before from social media posts and increased internet access. Shaniya of Shaniya is making a video all about the impact of social media on tweens. This video is actually in collaboration with Shaniya's channel, where she dives deep into issues of race, femininity, and class, and plays a personal stylist to the stars, popular shows, and her subscribers. Shaniya's video analyzes the link between social media and the sexualization of tween girls. In this video, I pick up on similar themes in teen television. I analyze Nickelodeon and CW shows to highlight the huge gap that exists between kids and teens media and how there doesn't seem to be much of a middle ground between them. If you want to see the full scope of this analysis, I recommend watching Shaniya's video as well, the link to which is in the description. I think the best way to truly illustrate the disparity between children and teen shows is to analyze a sample of each. So let's take an episode of Sam and Cat and an episode of Riverdale, one of the most popular shows aimed at the teen preteen demographic, to compare. I used a random number generator to pick which episode each would be, so there's no selective bias, and it resulted in the 13th episode of Sam and Cat and the 27th episode of Riverdale. One of the principal characteristics of the typical Nickelodeon Disney Channel show is that it follows a sitcom format. While there are recurring characters and some overarching storylines, each episode tends to have a narrative arc that concludes within its 22-minute runtime. This episode of Sam and Cat revolves around a safe Sam and Cat find in their closet. Once Sam cracks the code, they discover a hidden bunker that's long been abandoned. They're babysitting their neighbor Dice, but he locks them in order to sneak out. But their friend Goomer frees them, and the gang find out Dice is a children's party performer. To get their revenge, they lock Dice in the bunker and go off to enjoy some sloppy waffles. As is the case with many children's shows, Sam and Cat is a comedy with largely innocent humor. The humor tends to be very formulaic, with punchlines relying on silly words and unconventional delivery.
That machine is called a motorcycle. But who knows what they'll be called 10 years from now? Maybe straddle zoomers!
I don't need a babysitter. I'm 12. 0.5!
It also relies on physical comedy and slapstick humor. And while this humor may be repetitive and a little odd to older viewers, it's age-appropriate for the young audience. On the other hand, Riverdale, like all CW shows and the majority of teen TV, consists of overarching storylines that take episodes, if not an entire season, to resolve. From serial killers to cults, the show concerns itself with a broad range of adult topics. And since every episode is over twice the length of a kids' show, they can pack a lot more into each. With a change in subject matter comes a change in style. Both are significantly darker than their childish counterparts. Riverdale, Gossip Girl, Sabrina, Euphoria all have dark, moody color palettes that contrast the bright lit studio sets of Nickelodeon and Disney shows. In episode 27 of Riverdale, The Hills Have Eyes, friends Archie, Veronica, Betty, and Jughead go to a lake house for a romantic getaway. Archie and Veronica are dating, and so are Betty and Jughead. Their friend Cheryl, insulted that she wasn't invited, calls Jughead and tells him that Betty kissed Archie in the past in order to spark some tension. As a solution, Veronica and Jughead kiss to level the playing field, and each couple makes up and makes out and tries to make the most of their weekend. The episode bounces between the lake house and Riverdale town, where we see Josie telling Kevin that her mom and his dad had an affair, and Cheryl tells her girlfriend Tony that her homophobic mother broke up her last relationship with a girl. Back in the lake house, a group of men the gang saw in town break into the house. Veronica activates a silent alarm, they escape, and one of Hiram's bodyguards kills the intruders. Hiram is Veronica's mob boss dad, for context. Okay, so obviously a very different tone from Sam and Cat. Sex, violence, and mafia murder all in one episode. Other episodes include more of the same themes, as well as drugs, gangs, attempted suicide, attempted SA. It's a stark shift in subject matter and a rapid uptake of adult themes. Though Riverdale has garnered a lot of attention for its sensational storylines, it's not the first or the last teen show to feature plots beyond the realm of teenage possibility. Gossip Girl, Skins, Euphoria, and Pretty Little Liars also show underage sex, drugs, murder, and more, including inappropriate teacher-student relationships. Though elements may ring true for teenagers, they don't feel representative of teenage life. These shows could easily be set in college with adult casts and characters. There's really no need to set them in high schools. If they have to make a show set in school, at least show the characters navigating school, balancing study, family, friends, and hobbies that don't involve sniffing out murder mysteries. It feels gross and exploitative that middle-aged or older executives and writers are still creating media that is supposed to be for and about teenagers, but include highly inappropriate plotlines and rampant teen sexualization. The result is that tweens jump from watching shows where the climax of a relationship is a first kiss to witnessing teens getting hot and heavy every other episode. The default for teen shows has become grand melodramas in which the characters rarely attend school, instead getting involved in distinctly adult activities. I understand there is a need and a desire for escapist media, but I think it's more important to portray realistic teens rather than write teens into adult stories. In fact, the only teen or tween shows I have seen that seem somewhat accurate to the teen experience are the Norwegian Scum, Sex Education, and Degrassi. Granted, Degrassi covers a lot of bases and has a lot of drama, but it doesn't feel like it's glamorizing any of the more adult parts of teen years. Scum is very grounded in reality, as the principal conflicts for the characters are their relationships with their friends, their crushes, and significant others. Sex Education is a charming and wise look at the relationships and sex lives of teenagers in a school in England. And though it may center on sex and sexuality, it doesn't fall into the all too common trope of teen TV that is casting older actors to play teenagers is by no means a new phenomenon. From Rebel Without a Cause to Grease, high school students have almost always been played by actors in their mid to late 20s. There's reasons behind these casting decisions, of course, with strict child protection laws limiting what child actors can do and what hours they can work. Also, with the track record of child stars' abuse and mental illness, it's vital that we don't endanger and exploit children for entertainment. Mina Lee just put out a video that explores this topic, and I highly recommend checking that out too, as she retroactively examines shows she watched as a teen and highlights their problematic portrayal of teens. And with this, one of the most alarming repercussions of casting adults to play teenagers is the hypersexualization of teenagers. I believe part of the reason we've become so desensitized to the unrealistic and hypersexualized portrayals of teenagers is because the adults are almost always 5 to 10 years older than the characters they're playing. So it's easy to forget that these teenagers are teenagers, and in reality, a 14-year-old would look more like this than this. The only shows that I've seen that have cast teenage actors to play teenagers are the shows Scum and Degrassi. I've been watching Degrassi recently, and you really notice the difference in watching actual teenagers acting, and even those teen actors are still a year or two older than their characters. And watching it as a 23-year-old, their attempts to flirt and kiss feel viscerally uncomfortable. The thought of these teens being sexualized in the same manner as the adult actors in other teen shows is sickening, and it makes the stark reality of what those shows are depicting sink in. Exploring one's sexuality is a facet of many people's teenage years, and it is important to represent this exploration on screen. The problem, however, is the excessive sexualization of the teen characters. Many shows, from Riverdale to Gossip Girl, include unnecessarily sexual scenes that add nothing to the plot. The scenes essentially function as excuses to showcase the bodies of the attractive actors. Euphoria goes as far as to show one of the teenagers engaging in sex work. As an underage girl, Kat illegally engages in sex work as a way to gain empowerment, and though it doesn't end positively, it plays a part in the normalization of teenagers starting sex work, which I'll address later. The glamorized, unrealistic portrayal of sex on film and TV is often teenagers' first exposure to sex, and given the fact that sex education in schools is poorly lacking, many teens don't have the education or points of comparison to contextualize it. I think Degrassi is a show that strikes a good balance of exploring sex and sexuality without sexualizing teenage characters. It not only features heterosexual characters navigating crushes, sex, and relationships, but also portrays queer characters exploring their sexuality. It may allude to characters having sex, but doesn't explicitly show it, which is a far cry from other teen shows. The problem with the other teen shows is that the sexualization of teenagers, especially young girls, has implications that extend far beyond the TV screen. It creates a sense that all teenagers are hooking up and living crazy lives, putting pressure on others to live up to these unrealistic expectations, or making them feel dissatisfied with a life that seems mundane by comparison. It also impacts self-esteem during a time when bodies are drastically changing with fluctuating weight and skin concerns, but the characters have no acne, wear expensive clothes, and have carefully curated wardrobes that, even aside from everything else, makes them look like full-blown adults. Framing these adults who, in their mid to late 20s, have left puberty far behind as teenagers ignores the trials and tribulations puberty throws at you. Besides that, the sexualization of teens impacts young girls and women in particular. Society is obsessed with sexualizing young girls. Just look at the difference between the Google results for schoolboy and schoolgirl. Britney Spears, Natalie Portman, Millie Bobby Brown, Billie Eilish, Miley Cyrus, all of whom were child stars, are women in the spotlight that were sexualized from the time they hit puberty. Look at Britney's Baby One More Time video, which was filmed when she was 16. In this article, Onji Jayodor points out that her costuming and choreography branded Britney as a North American unspoken Lolita. Britney in particular straddled the line between family-friendly and sexy, but the continued tendency for child stars to swing from squeaky clean to hypersexual represents a public desire to see young girls in sexual situations. Even news outlets play into this with speculation about Millie Bobby Brown's love life when she was 13 and trending stories about Billie Eilish's boobs as a 17-year-old. There's a gross desire for people to see barely legal women in provocative situations. Bad Baby started an OnlyFans 2 weeks after she turned 18, and she made $1 million in 6 hours. All of these real-life examples of hypersexualization of teen girls stem from the pervasive media that frames adult bodies as teenagers and
the pedophilic corporate elite.
The tween to teen pipeline is steadily shrinking, and it feels as though we're witnessing the extinction of the tween demographic. These kids are highly impressionable and susceptible to what they see in front of them, from social media to network television. The media depictions accelerate our growing up as tweens and teens emulate what they see on TV. And given the normalization of drugs, sex, and other questionable activities, this becomes a problem as children and teenagers are pushed into adulthood faster and faster. It seems that the wealth of teen shows from Euphoria to Riverdale are about teenagers, but don't seem to be for teenagers, especially the younger ones. Tweens have slim pickings for appropriate content as shows swing from one extreme to another with no real middle ground. I think the problem in particular lies in teen TV, as it fails to bridge the gap between kids programming and teenage content, instead diving into adult topics without letting its young viewers come up for air. Watching teen TV as an adult, with the ability to contextualize its sensational plotlines and unrealistic depictions, it's easy to forget how damaging these shows are. However, hopefully with recent stories like 8th Grade and Pen 15, media that recognizes the importance of those tween years will continue to grow and a space will be made for tweens once more.